What's up, everyone? Welcome to Pat's Chat. I'm Doug Kyed, joined once again by
Mm.
Michael Hurley because Michael Hurley was in Florida. We still put out a Pat's Chat podcast for you guys with Andrew Callahan. That's his name. But Michael, glad to have you back. How are you doing?
I'm good. If you're watching, you can see SPF 70 did his job. I don't look like I left the state of Massachusetts, which is good. But yeah, apologies to all for booking a vacation right around the draft, Wednesday to Monday of draft weekend. But you know what, Doug? This was the first time in 13 years, maybe, where I wasn't working the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, do you want to know what it's like on the other side of things?
Sure, I'd love
It's
to.
awesome. It is awesome. They make the picks, you're like, "All right," you kinda digest it, you text your friends, you, like, move on. It is fantastic. I highly recommend trying it sometime. Now, granted, the circumstances aren't what I would have chosen,
Fair.
but to have that outside, it was great. I loved it. I watched it like, someone who cared but didn't necessarily have to do a bunch of work until 2 in the morning.
That sounds fun. I've got a little outline here. First one is check audio levels. We did
Yeah.
that. We went through an arduous process to try to get our audio levels as relative as possible, as equal as possible. I don't know if we did a perfect job, but we did a good enough job.
Good enough. That's apology number
And if you
2.
want to if you're listening live right now on Twitter,
Oh
let
god.
us know if
No.
it doesn't sound
No.
good. We're just gonna quit the podcast altogether and move
'Cause
on with our lives.
then you're gonna get sarcastic comments like, "It sounds terrible, cancel the podcast," and then we're gonna be all self-conscious. But that is apology number 2 for, like, 1,000 episodes, our audio was fine, and then randomly the past 4, we've been all over the place, so thanks for sticking with us. Usually, you screw that up when you start, not like 1,000
Yeah.
episodes in. That's apologies too, and, I think I found our solution. If you're familiar with the stylings of Joe Perry, a lead guitarist for Aerosmith, and Steven Tyler, of course, the lead singer, when they go back to back and sing on the same mic,
Mm.
that's how we're going to have to podcast from now on to ensure we have the same audio levels.
I think that sounds great. We'll figure that all out. Another thing on the outline tonight, if you're listening on Monday, we are doing a live stream to once again recap the Patriots NFL draft with much smarter people than Michael Hurley or I. We've got Jason McCourty, we've got Mina Kimes, we've got Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson, we've got Danny Kelly and Danny Heifetz, we've got Mike Giardi, we've got Phil Perry, Andrew Callahan and I are hosting it. We've got Taylor Kyles. I think there's one last. We've got Michael Hurley. I think that might be everyone. If I forgot someone, that's on me. I'm trying to look at my list right now. That was all off the top of the noggin, so pretty
Well, I'll
impressive.
say I'll say what everyone's thinking is like, how did Michael Hurley get on that list? Oh, we got a tweet. Audio is good. We did it.
Hell yeah, there we go. We nailed it.
We did
How
it.
did Michael get on the list? Because Michael's the smartest of them all, and
It in some
he's the
ways,
best of them all.
yeah.
But it helps to know friends in high places, and in this case, it's me and Andrew Callahan.
That is true. And I will say, just you, I should apologize to you ahead of time. Had an early flight this morning. I don't know how you deal with early flights, but I slept from 11 to 1 and then was awake from 1 beyond
Oh,
because
that's rough.
once you wake up, you get so if I don't make any sense, it's not because I'm dumb. It's because I'm sleep deprived. But I'm feeling good.
I saw that you boarded your flight back from Florida by like walking on the tarmac and up the stairs. How
Yeah.
does it feel to be John Lennon?
I said the exact thing. So we flew Allegiant, big baller brand money,
Where are you flying out of?
Boston to Sarasota.
Sarasota.
So
Okay.
Sarasota has a whole new wing of the airport. I guess it's a small airport, and they just don't have jet bridges over there. So you get off, and I was literally like, I'm in the Beatles right now. This is I've done that for like small planes, but not like, an Airbus 320 or whatever I was on. It was awesome. I mean, it's hot, but what are you going to do?
Well, all right. Now we can talk about the Patriots draft because
Patriots
that
draft.
is what people are really here for.
Who'd they pick?
Oh boy, we got
Just kidding.
we got issues here. Let's just start off from the top.
Yeah.
Me and Andrew did record a Pat's Interference podcast, but I still want to get Michael's takes, and I have probably changed my takes, maybe even on some of this stuff. But
Really?
actually, you know what? Let's go off the top of just encapsulating how we feel about the entire draft.
Okay.
And this truly, like, I don't have the greatest memory of all time,
Uh-huh.
but like this, I've been covering this team since 2013, like in a professional full time basis. I've been following this team since, let's call it like 1996. And I have been loosely covering the team since like probably 2011. This might be like the best front to back draft I remember them having.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that like it will be better than 2010 when they had Rob Gronkowski and Devin McCourty, or 2012 when it was Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower, but just purely like coming out of a draft,
Mhm.
this feels like it's the best full class they've put together. And once again, that's not to say they'll be better than 2010, 2012, some of the other ones, but I think that's my take off the top, is that like this feels the best.
Yeah, I mean, we were texting earlier. We were actually doing some podcast prep, which is a rare thing.
Very
And
rare.
there's
We usually don't speak between podcasts at all.
we just wing it. But as evidenced by our audio levels being all over the place. But the compilation of draft grades has the Patriots having the best draft out of anyone. And I can tell you,
Wild.
Doug, I've covered the Patriots pretty much the same amount of time. That never happens.
Right.
And it got me wondering how often, and I wish I had a job, because these are the things I do. Hire me. I would have looked up, because this is what I do, because I have that brain. I would have looked up every year's composite best
Yeah.
draft and see how it actually plays out, because it's one of those things. I mean, draft grades the day after, they're about as useful as all the draft stuff we just did for 6 months. It's ultimately, what the players do, how they develop, how they're coached, how they push themselves. Like, there's so many variables that cannot be accounted for today.
Yeah.
But it is certainly eye popping. I would say some of their better drafts over the years would have them, with the 10th best draft. And you say, oh,
Right.
the Patriots experts, quote unquote, seem to think they did a good job. So the fact that across the board they're getting A's pretty much, I think their worst grade was a C plus from Fantasy Life. So they're tough graders. But everyone else is getting the A's or high B's. So it is a little bit jarring. But I guess the take that I'm still marinating and I want to throw at you, and you can tell me, like, sometimes I don't know, am I too affected by the media game? So you tell me, am I being a media guy, or am I being thoughtful? Okay? That's the new game.
Yes.
They did all the things that we thought they should do, generally speaking. And that even goes back to the offseason. Like, oh, they should hire Mike Vrabel. They hired Mike Vrabel. Oh, they should get an offensive coordinator who's not going to leave Drake May after a year. They should get Josh McDaniels. They got Josh McDaniels. Now it's like they need a tackle. They need a receiver. Right. They need an interior lineman. The running back, I guess, was a little off the board, but he's a great player. So they needed talent offensively. So they basically did what everyone thought. And because of that, they're getting A's. If it were that easy, then everyone would be great at drafting.
That is true.
Is there
sometimes there is a little bit of like how, like, let's just be logical this offseason, which definitely feels like that's what the Patriots have done.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, to argue against myself, because again, I'm not firmly entrenched in this thought. The Commanders last year made a half dozen good moves, and as a result, they went from a 4-win team to a playoff team.
Right. Absolutely.
They weren't like, oh, that was outside the box. It was like, well, get a veteran linebacker like Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
Make these moves, and you will be improved. So maybe it is a good thing. But it just strikes me that it's not like they were on the clock at 4 and went off the board and went crazy and did things we didn't expect them to say. When we did that panel last week, was it unanimous that we all said they were taking Will Campbell?
Yes.
So I don't know. You tell me. Am I overthinking it, or am I really smart?
No, I think you're smart. I think this makes sense. And I mean, so I even, as you were delivering that take, kind of went back and looked at some of the like past draft classes. I think, like, unfortunately, a lot of people probably would have. I think the Patriots graded well last year, or relatively well, and still time to see how that draft pans out. But Polk and Wallace and Baker obviously did not pan out super well. I think 2021 was another one where people were very high on it, with Mac Jones, Christian Barmore, Ronnie Perkins, Ramondre Stevenson. And that one, like, Barmore and Stevenson have worked out. Mac Jones obviously didn't. But even going back to like 2012, Tavon Wilson in the second round, people were killing them for, because he was a guy who's like completely.
I thought you were going to say that was like a praise. I was like, excuse me?
No, definitely not. But like Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower, Jake Beckett, Alfonso Denard, that was all a solid class. But going back to 2010, I remember we talked about this with Devin McCourty on our pre-free agency live stream. Like people wanted Kyle Wilson when they drafted Devin McCourty. Like Devin McCourty was more thought of as like a second round pick than a first round pick at the time. Rob Gronkowski had some injury issues. Obviously, beyond that, like I think people are happy with that class. Even looking at 2021, Nate Solder, Razai Dowling, they went back to back with Shane Vereen and Stephen Ridley. I don't think that was thought of very highly. Ryan Mallett in the third round, that was a wild pick. So yeah, I mean, I think that yes, they did all the things that they were supposed to do this offseason. And I think that, yeah, it feels a little bit like chalk to be doing all of this, but it's what they needed to do. And it's what they've done. Like they have created a depth chart. Whereas before the offseason began, they actually did not have a depth chart. They had too many holes for it to even be considered a depth chart at that point.
Yeah. And I guess they did. I mean, we can't talk about it and act like we knew they were going to take Trevian Henderson in the second round, where
No.
I think, I don't know about you, but I was thinking receiver all the way.
Right.
And I don't hate it. I know your colleague Andrew, who stepped into these big, huge shoes here on Pat's chat, super against the move based on his tweets. I haven't listened to the podcast. No offense. I was on vacation. The family just didn't want to listen to Pat's chat. I don't know what's up with them.
I blame Ruby.
Yeah, she wanted Daniel Tiger, so that wins out. But I like that pick because, I mean, there's guys there, and you kind of have to pick who you want them to pick, right? In the second round. You're like, oh, I like this guy.
Yeah.
Who was your guy?
My guy at that point, Jaden Higgins was one, but he went before them. I probably
like Burden.
I probably would have gone Burden. Burden was the guy.
But can I like why did I like Burden? Because you got to pick someone, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so the fact, like, I like the player they got. I think he is and you might argue A, running back is antiquated. B, I know Andrew's big on the lines, not good enough, and they may not be good enough yet. But the idea is to build the line into something good, and so that by year 2, by year 3, this guy's helping you win a number of games because he is that kind of talent. So I liked that pick, and I didn't see it coming.
We'll get into it in a second. Let's start off with Will Campbell because me and you haven't been able to talk about it yet. So maybe you'll do this on the fly. Maybe you've thought about it. I don't know, but I did release some draft grades as soon as the draft was over, and I gave the Will Campbell pick a B. And surprisingly, so I gave the entire draft an A, and I gave the Will Campbell pick a B. And you wouldn't believe this, but people on Twitter were like furious at me.
The B.
I got called some words that you're not supposed to use in the year 2025 that unfortunately have been brought back by certain subsets.
2 words are back, and it's I don't know what happened.
I gave the Will Campbell pick a B, and they were like, "Why would you give that B?" And like to me, that was surprising that people were so passionate about this because I felt like when they made the pick, Patriots fans, like half of them didn't like it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like people are saying like, who else should they have picked? I don't think you can look at it that way. Because like he's a player that has some risks.
Right.
And it fills a massive need. I've been saying for at least weeks now that he probably should be the pick, given all the risks that everyone else has. But I don't necessarily look at it as like it's an A+ if there's not a better player to be taken there. Because I just don't think that that's not the best exercise for all of this. So I gave it a B, which B is a good grade. When I was in high school, I was happy with Bs. And like, I think that that's what it deserves. It was the pick that everyone expected. It was the chalk pick. I think he's going to be their left tackle of the future, but there is that risk that he's not going to be. And I think because that risk does exist, you can't give it an A+ or an A or whatever you want to call it. Maybe you disagree with that, but that is my reasoning for why it was a B and not necessarily like an A or an A+, is that there are risks involved with the pick. I don't know I don't think anyone they could have taken there would have been an A.
Right.
Maybe a trade back and then getting Campbell would have been an A, but it seems like that wasn't on the table. So all in all, B for me, that's a good grade. That's a solid grade. I would have no issues with that if I were the Patriots.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, if you're looking at Doug's grade and getting mad about it, you can't pretend like the whole world didn't call this a 3-person draft.
Right.
And the Patriots had the
or
fourth
even a 2-person draft. Yeah.
So I think B is a positive outlook on it. I look at it as the questions are obviously there, just like they are with any prospect. It's not a sure thing, but you had a first round where 3 tackles went in the first 9 picks.
Right.
5 tackles went in the first round, and you got the guy that not just the Patriots, the whole league looked at as the best tackle in this draft. And I know we hyper focused on arm length for far too long, and we'll see how that plays out. It's a factor, maybe, but let's put it this way. What if those 33-inch arms or 32 and 5/8, whatever somewhere in between there,
Yep.
maybe they prevent him from being an all-pro. But if they make him a really good left tackle, it won't matter. And that is ultimately what it is. And then in terms of, I mean, we talked, I don't know how long you and I spent on it, but people talked like, do you take Tyler Warren there just because of how weird it is? That guy went 14th and was the second tight end taken. So let's
just make this an Andrew Callahan hate podcast, because he
was Tyler Warren.
He preferred Tyler Warren to Ashton Genty in this draft for the Patriots.
How does he feel about Colston Loveland? Because I didn't have that on my bingo card.
We were in the same room when he went before him, and I did. I was like, oh man, you must be struggling right now. And obviously, I love Andrew. Andrew's the best, and any amount of guff that we give him on this podcast is purely a joke. Good. I don't want anyone to take it seriously. But he did love Tyler Warren, and yeah, Colston Loveland went before him, and Tyler Warren wound up being a mid first round pick.
And ultimately, like, I think there's reason for organizational concern about taking a right tackle like Membu and being like, he can play left. Like, They have to not do that. So I like the pick. Again, it's not amazing. There's risks, but there's also like the character and the attitude and the outlook. Like, you probably saw, I don't know who shared it. It might've been a McShay story where he wasn't dressed for a high school game because he pulled his groin and they were losing at halftime. So he got dressed under the stands and came in and helped them win. It's like, the guy is, and his outlook, they're not the same person, but you're kind of thinking like Logan Mankins. There's a Mankins-esque who was the most badass player I ever covered. He just exuded a certain attitude that drew people to him. He was an obvious leader without being fake or phony or rah-rah. And so, look, if he ends up being a guard, your B becomes a C.
Right.
But if he's a really good guard, if he becomes Logan Mankins, you'll live with it. If he
becomes an all-pro, then it's an A+, obviously. But and I don't feel dumb giving him a B with the thought that this could become an A+. But in all reality, and as far as the character goes, I don't know if you caught this clip because you were in basking in the heat in Florida. But when he was up on the lighthouse with his family, he was like, "Hey, Dad, there's a Bass Pro Shop. I can go hunting behind the stadium like Matt Light." Just the fact that he knows that Matt Light lore was so impressive to me. He knew that Matt Light told a story on Julian Edelman's podcast. They used to hunt behind Gillette Stadium. Like that, I'm not a big hunter, but like the fact that he even knew that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would be careful back there. There's a cranberry bog. There's families. Just, keep the arrows. By the way, I did see that. I was at the beach the other day in Florida, as you mentioned, sunny Florida, and I was reaching in the sand, digging up stuff. I found 2 bullet shell casings.
Wow.
Just so that happened. One was like from a rifle.
Jeez.
So someone just went and shot some bullets at the beach.
Into the ocean? Trying to kill some
I hope so. I hope they went that way.
Yeah, hopefully it was pointed that way. So I mean, obviously we've talked about Will Campbell for months now, so we don't need to go super deep onto Will Campbell. But next pick was Trevian Henderson. This was another one where some people were mad that I gave it a B. I, once again, have no issue giving it a B. I think that's ultimately a positive grade. I think the only reason I gave it a B, to justify that or to explain it, is that there's not a ton of positional value, obviously, in running backs, and it wasn't necessarily the biggest need for the Patriots. But I liked it enough. I liked the player enough. I liked the value of the player enough to give it a B. And this is another one that could easily turn into, let's call it like an A+, and not to, once again, drag Andrew Callahan back into this. But we did get into we've gotten into now 2 debates in the past 3 to 4 weeks about whether or not the Patriots offensive line is good enough to justify. The first debate was justify taking Ashton Genty at 4. Mm-hmm. And now the second one was taking Trevian Henderson in the second round. And my question to him was okay, so what's the round that you can take a running back with the state of the current offensive line? And my other point was also just that they've made improvements. This is not the same offensive line they had last year. And the third point was that you can't take Trevian Henderson in a vacuum of only picking him for what he's going to do this season. And to give Andrew, yes, it is maybe a luxury pick, when your offensive line is not where it's supposed to be. But I think that the hope is that the offensive line will be significantly better, and that Trevian Henderson is a player that can actually like produce at times despite the offensive line because of his speed, because of his pass catching ability. And not to go too long on this, I did bring this up on the last podcast, but Albert Breer after the second round compared him to Jahmyr Gibbs, and that did kind of make me like the pick a little bit more, just to think that like, yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy who is undersized but really fast, can make big plays. Maybe Trevian Henderson isn't 100% of Jahmyr Gibbs, but if he can be 90% of Jahmyr Gibbs, then that is probably still a pretty decent pick there at the top of the second round. And one last thing is that everything the Patriots did after the Trevian Henderson pick also makes you feel better about it.
Yes.
Sorry for stealing all of your points.
No, none of those were mine. That's what makes us a good podcast. Are you telling me though Albert Breer was high in the Ohio State player?
I did. I have to say I did make that reference on our last show that you didn't listen to. I think that Albert Breer would have liked any Ohio State player in that position. But
I like when Breer just like
he did also mention he's watched a lot of them, which it's like, yes, Albert.
I'm kidding, but I just like when Breer is like, Ohio State has done this one thing that no school has done except for like this 100, and it's just like, all right. I went to Roger Williams University. You don't see me tweeting about it. Anyways, if you want to hate this pick, one reason, the thing we talked about so much was move up into the late first round and get, the best receiver you can, or get whatever tackles available. You saw what the Falcons gave up to move to 26, and that was the 46 and the 241st and next year's first to move up from 46 to 26 to get James Pierce Jr. So the price was what we expected, because we thought a lot of teams were going to be trying to move up to do that. So I don't hate that they didn't do that. And then the other would be you wanted them to take a receiver. And now, granted, if you were a Higgins guy, Higgins was already gone. So you had Burden there. I forget who the next receiver that went was, but it felt like, I don't want to say a sure thing, but I think Trevian Henderson at his position is a surer thing than whatever receiver you would have got there. Even if, like me, you picked one and you said, you know what, Burden could be a good fit for this team. So I like it. And then another thing, we'll get to the center they drafted, who should legitimately help them soon, I believe. And then secondly, a running back that is not stock, is not basic, is not mid, is not league average, can actually help your offensive line be a little bit. We saw with Drake May as a quarterback. Everyone's like, oh, the offensive line really fixed its problems. Like, no, Drake May is just that much better than Jacoby Brissett. And I think you have Ramondre Stevenson coming off a bad season. There's no guarantees that he's going to improve this year.
Right. Yeah.
I think you have to keep him because of the contract. But I think if you want to impact the ball, getting a dynamic talent is the way to do it. So again, it's going to help them this year, but I think it's a pick that is made with a 2-3 year rebuild in mind.
100%. And to answer your question, so Luther Burden went 39th overall. I asked someone actually, like, after the first round into the second round, like, hey, how do you, someone like within the league, a scout, how do you feel about Luther Burden? And the person said, like, I love him. He's a first round talent. Character stuff is what's causing him to fall. So the Patriots drafted a lot of high character guys, and I think that probably was a factor there at 38 overall. One other thing I liked about Trevian Henderson pick is that Quinshon Judkins, his teammate at Ohio State, was supposed to be drafted after him, and he was drafted 2 picks earlier. So, like, it seems like possibly they might be on the right side of the Sony Michel, Nick Chubb in 2018 thing this year between Judkins and Henderson. We'll see how all of that goes. To answer your question, the next wide receiver off the board was Trey Harris at 55 overall, by the way.
And there were a couple of Washington receivers that were drafted last year. The Patriots might not have gotten the strong
yes, Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan.
I guess, though, the other second guess you could have there is should they have doubled up on tackle, which is something we had talked about. Like, there were a few tackles that went in the second round. Should they have done that? And I think that's a fair case if you want to make that. I think that is always a need for every team in the league.
Yeah.
If you could get a guy who could step in on either side, Moses is obviously not around for the long term. So I think that's a fair second guess over a running back. There's probably more value there if you liked one of those guys. The guys that went There was 3 guys in the second round, if I'm not mistaken, including the BC kid, Ozzy Trapillo. Do we pronounce the L?
I do not know, but it's funny that you mentioned that because Elliot Wolf said after the second round that there was a debate before the Patriots were picking about what player they wanted to take at number 38 overall. And it's since been reported by multiple people that within the Patriots front office, they were debating between Trevian Henderson and Jonah Savagnier, who the Dolphins traded up over the Patriots to take. Jonah, I'm butchering his last name, but he was a tackle in college who's projected as more of a guard. If they did take him, he probably would have slotted in as a left guard in 2025 and potentially been able to move over to right tackle after Morgan Moses's career is up. So they even had that same idea. I think that would have been a fine pick. I do think that obviously their offensive line is such an issue that like if you do take Savagnier at 38, then you feel a little bit better about taking a running back, maybe in like the 3rd or 4th round or whatever. But I'm still of the belief that like someone on this team can fill in at left guard. Whether
I agree.
that's Cole Strange or Layden Robinson or Sidney Sow or who's the veteran they signed? His name is, he gave up number 66 to Wes Schweitzer. I think he could potentially do it. I think Caden Wallace could potentially even move to guard. I think Jared Wilson could potentially even move to guard. So like, I think they can find someone there. And the hope is that Caden Wallace blossoms into that starting right tackle of the future. And if he doesn't, he can fill in this year and maybe they draft a right tackle in the 1st or 2nd round next year. Like they do have time to find that right tackle, assuming Moses can stay healthy this season.
I'm with you. And now we'll probably move to the 3rd pick. And as I do that, I will tell you, having lived the other side of this, the absolute best part, it's a tie. The best part of not having to work the draft is the 8 hours of Saturday or just how excruciatingly long and late Friday night goes. It's crazy, man. Like, I don't know if you know,
especially when they trade back to the 95th overall pick. Let me tell you, that was a little kick in the junk.
What time was that pick made? Close to midnight?
It wasn't that late, but like it did push everything back from what we were expecting it, which like in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Quick story time. I'll be super quick with this. 2019, the Patriots had the 32nd pick because they had won the Super Bowl the previous year. I was covering a Bruins playoff game and I was like, you know what? I'll cover the draft after. Once I finish my Bruins coverage, I'll just write Patriots trade 32nd pick and then I'll leave and go to bed. And they freaking made the pick. And I'm sitting there at TD Garden until 2 a.m. writing about N'Keal Harry, putting his highlights on the thing, but like, he's pretty big. If I could go back in time, I would have not done any of that and been like, they picked N'Keal Harry. Move on with your lives, everyone.
This is a me problem, but the Patriots told us that they would be giving us snacks on Thursday night at the draft. So I was like, okay, I'll like pick up a bar pizza on the way and I'll have my bar pizza and then I'll have some snacks. The Patriots really went above and beyond and they had like sandwiches and they even wound up giving us like, they had a full meal, like more than a full meal, desserts, snacks, chips and guac, sandwiches. I think there might've been a pizza later in the night. I overate so badly on Thursday and then also on Friday that like, there's a real detox coming out of my life where like, I felt like sick. I ate so much on Thursday. I'm a dumb person. I cannot control myself. And just wanted to complain about myself. Thanks to the Patriots, but really bad move by Doug there, eating way too much food. If there's free food in front of me, I like can't, and if I'm bored, I cannot possibly stop myself from eating.
It's tough when you were raised, like finish everything on your plate.
Right. Yes.
And you're like, all right. And now here I am eating far too much, but it's on my plate. So I got to eat it. And what was the one thing I sent you a photo of in Florida? Was it sightseeing? No. What did I send you a picture of?
A Rice Krispie treat Peeps.
And guess who ate most of those? That was me. So we're detoxing over here as well.
Yeah. The saving grace was that they had fruit. So like if I would get bored and like, if I'd feel good about myself, I'd be like, well, I'll grab like 10 more blackberries, 10 more blueberries, and like a pile of grapes and just eat those. But
people don't know the perils of being a sports writer. This is how we all
there's a reason why there's a lot of like 300-pound sports writers, and we are not 2 of them, but maybe one day we could accomplish that goal.
I've had a dalliance with the lifestyle myself, so it's not out of the question.
All right, well, let's get to Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams was the 69th overall pick. Unfortunately, Rob Gronkowski had a prior commitment, could not announce the 69th pick from Green Bay. But Kyle Williams, I think I gave this one an A minus. People are kind of giving, like, a lot of people are giving this one an A plus, I would say. And
Really?
obviously, I'm a fan of the pick. They needed a wide receiver. They got a wide receiver. The things that make me maybe a little bit more nervous that it's not an A plus, but only an A minus, is that he's a little bit smaller. He's like 5'11", 186, played X wide receiver at Washington State, might not be able to do that in the NFL. 8 3/4 inch hands. Most times you want your wide receiver to have 9-inch hands. In recent history, T.Y. Hilton is like one of the few outliers who had 8-ish, 8 3/4, whatever it was, inch hands, who wound up being good. But like Tyquan Thornton had small hands. Obviously, he hasn't panned out. But I think that Kyle Williams brings a lot of traits that the Patriots don't currently have to beat man coverage, to find holes in zones, to be able to get separation. He's got game-breaking speed. So overall, I like the pick. I love the pick. I just don't know if I've reached the status of other people on this pick. So I think a lot of people think I'm down or low on it, but I'm giving it A minus. Like, he's a good player. He should be a good player. The other factor is that, like, the Patriots have drafted so many second and third round wide receivers in my lifetime that have not panned out that it feels a little bit crazy to say, like, well, this is the one that's going to work out, because we just don't know that.
Right. And I'm in the same boat. I'm going to be honest. Some people will BS you around this time of year. I have not studied the player. So I will judge this pick on the position, the need, and the fact that they made the effort. And that is, like I said, you might have wanted it in the second round. They went for it in the third round.
Yep.
I respect that. And it's like, I have a TBD approach to any receiver they take in the second or third round because of everything you just said. And he was now working against him. And this is not a knock specifically on him or his game or anything like that. There were 4 receivers in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4 receivers in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was the first. So he was the 9th receiver taken. So that is something that, tells you what the league thought. It's not as if it was the A plus, I assume, is for getting him at 69th because there's more value there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And like, I would say that, Pat Bryant went after him. Isaac Tislaw went after him. Tislay, I don't know. Jalen Noel. I know a lot of Patriots fans love Jalen Noel, but he's even smaller, more of a slot receiver. I think that it was a good value. I think they got him in the right place. Like, the board fell to them pretty well, I would say.
And a ton of receivers went that round, like 5 guys.
Right. So I like the pick. And I think that it creates a real logjam at wide receiver where guys you have heard of will not be making this team in the year 2025, because just among guys who even have a shot to make the roster, you've got 8. Javon Baker, Kendrick Bourne, Kayshon Boutte, Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, Mac Hollins, and then Jalen Polk and Kyle Williams. And that, that's not even including the UDFAs that they brought in. One of them, Efton Chisholm, the third, it was like a Wes Welker type at Eastern Washington. So even some of those guys can make the roster, but like at least one of those guys is going to be left off the roster. I did a 53-man roster projection. I had Boutte off the roster only because there were like multiple trade rumors surrounding Boutte before the draft, which makes me feel like if they can move a guy, he might be the one.
Yeah. And I don't know, Bourne is a name we've kicked around for so long just because.
For sure.
But he's not a player you're dying to get rid of,
no.
like in favor of keeping Jalen Polk because you drafted him high last year. So it's going to be interesting. I think that's obviously going to be the story we talk about for the next.
Definitely.
What is it? May, June, July.
Yeah, I'm sorry for even bringing it up because.
No, it's that's what we're going to talk about. That's going to be the story of going into minicamp, going into training camp, preseason. There's going to be a trade. There's going to be cuts.
Yeah.
And because you figure maybe Diggs will be on the pup list, so that can buy you a month of pushing off one decision.
Right.
You figure they didn't sign Mac Hollins on day 1 of free agency just to cut him.
Right.
But I mean, I suppose he has to earn his spot, but it doesn't seem that way. So yeah, that will be the story moving forward. And they had to take someone though. They had to throw another name. I think if you went in without taking a guy in the top even 100,
Yeah.
you weren't doing your job. So they had to throw another player in there to try to make the team. And he's probably got a leg up on Baker just because this regime drafted him and drafted
Yeah.
him fairly high. But that's to be determined.
Yeah, and I mean, he was drafted around earlier than Javon Baker. Javon Baker was a 4th-round pick last year, and like I think that he would even possibly have a leg up on Jalen Polk because this is the regime that brought in Kyle Williams. And like, let's just be honest about this: if Jalen Polk had looked like a 2nd-round pick last year, I don't think Kyle Williams is necessarily drafted this high. If Javon Baker looked like he was expected to look last year, I don't know if you draft Kyle Williams this high. So
Yeah.
those factor into why they're even making this pick in the first place. Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, was the next pick. I think we all kind of we all thought this was going to happen when David Andrews was cut. Them signing Garrett Bradbury maybe brought Jared Wilson off of some of the immediate mock drafts, but I give this one an A. He's a 1-year starter at Georgia, but he had a bunch of like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th-round picks playing ahead of him. Unbelievably athletic. He ran a 4.8 440 at 6'3", 310 pounds. I look at this as you want him competing with Garrett Bradbury this summer and winning the job. Elliot Wolf was asked after the second day, could he play left guard while you have Bradbury and then move him back? He said, like, yeah, maybe, but we think his best position center. For that reason, I don't want to move him from center. Even if he's a backup this year, I don't think you want to mess around with it, have him play left guard for a season and then move him to center. Just have him keep snapping whether he wins the job or not.
Yeah. And if I didn't, again, we're doing honesty, and that's what you get from me. Was I out there grinding tape on Craig Woodson heading into the draft? I was not. But those who were had him ranked very highly. And so to have him there, I love what you just said, where when they signed Bradbury, it was kind of like, well, I mean, he's not at his best. He may be on the decline. Yeah. He's better than nothing. Yes. He's very experienced. But to add someone who could push him, and like you said, that's ideal. If this kid comes in and shows he can be a starter off the bat, totally different regime and everything. It's kind of a cruel business. They had a rookie from Georgia come in and play pretty early in his career, and David Andrews had his unceremonious sort of abrupt ending recently, and then they get the Georgia center to fill in, which is kind of life in the NFL. But if you get that, you had, and this is probably where we can draw a line in this draft.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'd say Craig Woodson. He was their next
pick. You did.
Pick.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about.
No, that's when things. This is where I'm drawing lines before Craig Woodson.
No. I after that, it was clear that you were talking about Jared Wilson. I thought you were making an example that like I didn't grind on the Craig Woodson. It's okay.
Oh no, I didn't grind on the Jared Wilson tape.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. Is that it was clear that the value is there. Everything we're saying with him, but I'm saying like this is where we draw the line in the draft where you have your top 4 picks.
Yeah.
And when we evaluate this draft, we're talking about the top 4 picks.
Yes.
Definitely
those
not
are
the last more 2
heavily.
picks.
Yeah.
Yes. Though I do want to talk about the long snapper. But I think this was a pick where I saw some had him ranked in what? Like the top, they thought he might be a 2nd round.
Top 70, top 50, yeah. And it kind of does stink. You're talking about David Andrews. Like David Andrews, great guy, like forever thankful for him for coming to our event a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Like if you had known that you could take Jared Wilson, maybe you keep David Andrews. And maybe you don't make that transition from David Andrews to Garrett Bradbury. Maybe you say like, maybe Andrews can play this year. We'll see how the shoulder looks, but at least he can like mentor Jared Wilson. It's another Georgia guy, another Georgia center. It would be like a really smooth transition. And then if Andrews doesn't look good at the end of camp, he could either be a backup or you cut him at that point. But you don't know that you can get Jared Wilson in the draft in March or April or whenever that was. So you do have to make the decision of, we don't know who we can get in the draft. Garrett Bradbury is available and David Andrews has some age and injury concerns. So we're going to bite the bullet and cut Andrews and sign Bradbury. And yeah, if everything had turned out the exact same way, maybe they don't do that, but now they've got 2 guys competing for the job.
Just not to butt in, but like as rotten as it is for life in the NFL with Andrews getting cut, he's not sure he can play right now.
Right. Yeah.
So the team obviously couldn't be sure. And it's not like they're overly committed to Bradbury.
No.
So the fact that they did it was a smart move. And the fact that they got a young promising prospect in the third round that is a good, and that's what I'm saying is I think those 4 picks are why you see so many high grades, and the rest will probably do a little bit quicker. But I liked what they did there. I like the thought with both positions of the third round picks.
Craig Woodson was their first fourth round pick. What was it?
No, before we get to that, I had one more thought on what they did there, because they added a 4th and a 4th in their dealings.
Yes.
Next year's
they
4th.
moved around a lot. They originally had the 77th overall pick, and they moved back to 95. And in doing so, picked up a future 4th round pick.
Next year's 4th.
Which that felt like a good deal. Oh, while we're talking about trades, I'm going to be real quick on this. You mentioned the Falcons trade to move up for James Pierce. Not a great deal. I might think, I don't know if I've fully formulated this take yet. I actually think the Jaguars trade to move up to 2 was more egregious. Like, I understand why they did it, because it's a 2-player draft and they got one of those 2 players. But they traded so much for a non-quarterback that, like, you don't even fully know what he is at this point. So they traded, Cleveland traded the number 2 overall pick.
I like this take. Ride it.
A 4th and a 6th. And the Jaguars traded 1st, 2nd, and 4th round picks this year and a 2026 first round pick. So they traded 2 firsts, a 2nd, and a 4th, a very high 2nd and a 4th for the number 2 overall pick, the 4th pick, and the 6th pick. So they moved up 3 picks and had to give up a 1st round pick, a 2nd round pick, which is basically a 1st round pick, and a 4th round pick. It's a lot. It's a lot to give up for a non-quarterback.
And I just double checked, because I remember it being bad. The Jaguars ranked 31st in defense last year.
Right. And it seems like he'll probably be a wide receiver who can also play some defense. The Falcons trade, which, like, first of all, trading up to grab another edge defender, weird move. This deal in general, if the Patriots had done it, it would have been rough, and I would it's not a good trade. But at its surface, the Falcons traded a 1st round pick, a 2nd round pick, and a 7th round pick for a 1st round pick and a 3rd round pick. So, like, you don't want to have to trade a future 1st round pick to move up from the 2nd round to the 1st round. But, like, they weren't it's a 1st and a 3rd for a 1st, a 2nd, and a 7th. That just, like, when you put it like that, that doesn't seem that crazy, right?
Yeah, no, the future 1st though is killer. And that's
it is,
where,
but you're trading it for a 1st round pick, and you didn't have to include this year's 1st round pick.
Yeah,
I'm not defending it. It's not a great trade for the Falcons. I just don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
No, and I like the take, because the Jaguars, I don't think Travis Hunter solves all their problems. I think that's what you're getting at, and they just paid a hefty price to do it. And when I look at trading a future 1st round pick, it's just removing the safeguards from your franchise. If your quarterback gets hurt in September and you go 2-15, it's all for naught, because now that's going to someone else because you got an edge defender. So I think that is why I always kind of shudder at the thought of it. But I like the idea of the Patriots, because, again, I look at this as a multi-year rebuild. So to get more picks next year, I think is a fine strategy. That was the Judon pick, obviously, at 77.
Right.
They didn't quite Garoppolo it. They made it a little bit easier for us.
Yeah. And to get the future 4th out of that deal.
So they went from 77 to 85, right?
And then they traded back again from 85 to 95.
And so they so they ended up with, turning Judon into 2 picks. One of which we'll find next year, unless they trade that one, and then we'll start a new tree.
So at 75, they traded 70. At 77, they traded 77 for 3rd and 5th round. So they traded 77 for 85 and a 5th rounder. And then in the 85 to 95 is when they trade for the future 4th.
Yes.
85 in exchange for 95 and a future 4th, which that on paper seems like a really good deal.
Yeah.
And then they were able to take Jared Wilson at 95. moving on to Craig Woodson, they didn't trade for this pick. They stood pat. Safety, not the biggest need. Craig Woodson, pretty far down draft board. So I gave this one a B minus. I think it would have been fair to give it maybe even like a C plus, but seems like a really smart player. He can play some deep safety. Might have been a little bit more underrated in this process. So I have no problem with the pick, but as far as like the first, let's call it like 7 picks goes, this is the one that it's like that you could be the most down on, I would say.
I say like, yeah, you can grade it. Again, I said Woodson instead of Wilson 10 minutes ago,
Right.
so I'm going to limit my impact on it, but you just label this as their guy.
Right.
This is someone Vrabel really likes or Cowden really likes, or someone pounded the table for, said he doesn't rate highly, he'll be available, he's there, just get him. We like the player, because you never know what's going to happen once it gets to round 4, because picks like this happen where front offices like a guy and take him. So I'm not telling you I like him. I'm not telling you I dislike him. I'm telling you he wasn't rated high enough to warrant maybe the 106th pick, but it's one of those picks where if it doesn't work out, okay, they overdrafted. And if the player works out, no one's saying you overdrafted him. You could have got so-and-so in the 4th round. It doesn't work like that. So it's such a cop-out to say we'll see.
Yeah.
But it is also what is going to happen.
Right. So then they move back up into the 4th round to take Joshua Farmer. They originally had the 144th overall pick in the 4th round. They combined that with a 7th rounder to move up to 137 and take Joshua Farmer. This one for me got an A minus. Joshua Farmer was expected to go higher. Very defensive line like personality to him. He expected to go earlier. Seems like he's going to be coming in with a chip on his shoulder. He was super psyched to be playing with Milton Williams. I guess when he took his 30 visit with the Patriots, he had like a 30-minute sit down chat with Milton Williams. He was like super excited to meet him, super excited to talk to him. Clint McMillan, the Patriots defensive line coach, actually recruited Joshua Farmer. So there's some history there. They know what they're getting in the personality. They know what they're getting in the player. And defensive line was a major need. And I think that if you were putting a mock draft together and you had Joshua Farmer as a 4th round pick, late 4th round pick, you would view that as a steal. So this one I was pretty high on.
Yeah. Whenever you stop the fall, you recognize the value in the pick and all the things you said, chip on his shoulder, all that. So a useful pick there. I wouldn't have said going into this draft, like, man, they need to beef up their interior D-line, but it's a place where good players are always needed.
Yeah. And I think like there's the potential that he could wind up being the 3rd defensive tackle on this roster. Like you want Milton Williams and Christian Barmore to be the top 2. Beyond that, you've got some questions like the other guys on this roster, beyond Farmer, Marcus Harris, Eric Johnson, both of whom didn't do much last year. Jeremiah Farms, who was like kind of played over his head, I would say a little bit. Jaquelin Roy didn't play a ton last year. Kairos Tonga, they just signed. So like they don't have a lot of sure things on their defensive line. Joshua Farmer might play a massive role for the Patriots in 2025.
Do you know something? I think I saw this from Boston Herald's Doug Kyed. Big arms, right?
He does 35-inch arms.
Yeah, arm length talk. The other way.
Give some of that to Will Campbell. They'd be in good shape.
Good for practice. I know he's a tackle, but maybe they can work together as rookies and just arm fight for a little while, and they can figure it out.
I mean, yeah, no, it really is good practice for Mr. Campbell to play against a guy with longer arms. Their next pick, Braden Swinson. This was my favorite pick of theirs overall. Wow. Got an A from me. Braden Swinson last year played at LSU. I'm sure you've heard of it. And he led the team with 60 pressures and 9 sacks. Like he is a accomplished pass rusher. Probably not going to do a ton in the run game, at least early in his career. He's got decent size though, 255 pounds. But this is a guy, once again, who like you were looking to shore up the pass rush. Ideally, they would have taken someone earlier than the 5th round. But like this is a steal. Braden Swinson was expected to go in the 3rd round. He drops down to the top of the 5th round, and you're getting a legitimate pass rusher in this spot.
Yeah, again, I like the position. I like to address what's become, I don't know, you tell me, edge defender. It's a position I still don't like to write out, edge.
I know.
But it's a position that has become, how important would you say on the hierarchy with quarterback being 1?
Oh, it's like, yeah, it's like
Three,
quarterback,
four.
tackle, pass rush,
Wide
wide
receivers probably
receiver.
ahead of it. Yeah, so top 5 importance of position.
Yeah.
I like the idea of taking shots there. And again, I'm not going to waste anyone's time with my evaluation of the player. I'm just going to look at what they did and the thought process into it, and it's sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And
like,
if you think I'm going to say that throughout, there will be a couple picks coming up where I don't quite believe in the logic.
I think that's fair. And like, just talking about Swinson, he was 6th in the FBS last year in total pressures. So he had the same amount of pressures as the Boston College edge defender that everyone wanted him to take with the Trevian Henderson pick. Both of them had 60 total pressures. And yeah, I mean, he just like rated really well overall. His pass rush win rate was high. Like, he's just a really good, solid pass rusher who you can throw on the field on third down and get after the quarterback. And that's not typically what you find in the 5th round, but he was 6th overall in pass rush win rate, 6th overall in pressures. Just a really good overall player. So
And
that one gets an A for me.
there are such things as late bloomers in college. So the
Yeah.
fact that his previous 4 years weren't very productive, there's a chance that you don't figure things out until you're in your 20s.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And yeah, it can certainly be a hindrance for some players, but he was very good last year. The next pick was a kicker.
Yeah.
Number 182. I almost made a blank joke when they took him, but I was on the road at that point because I had to attend a friend's fundraising event for my fundraiser. So the next 5 picks, I was like kind of in and out of the next 4 picks, kind of in and out of it, but they drafted kicker Andy Borregales. I gave it a B plus. I
Wow.
probably could have gone B or B minus. I don't have a problem with taking a kicker in the 6th round.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take a kicker, it's in the 6th round. I just think it's
Right.
on the Patriots list of needs. Like if this guy, the one caveat or caveat, what do you say?
Caveat. Yeah.
You say caveat?
I say caveat.
Is that in Massachusetts? Should we be saying caveat?
Caveat.
Caveat emptor?
Caveat.
Either way, the one warning you'd put forth, if he becomes their kicker for a decade, then great pick.
Yeah.
It's just that it seems so low on their needs.
Because like the kicker was Parker Romo. What do you know about Parker Romo?
His brother Tony's a great golfer. No, I know. I don't know the way that the Patriots
find
kind of
kickers undrafted quite
right,
often,
or
so,
even
yeah.
veterans. I mean, Nick Folk is still kicking, and they found that guy sitting on the side of the road 5 years ago.
It's fair.
There's kickers, and it's important, but it's not. I don't know. Maybe he'll be great, but I'm just saying it just felt odd. Maybe at that point they realized there's no one left in this draft that's really worth taking a huge shot on here. So get a guy. He was the first kicker taken, so
he was. I would like if they had taken Devin Neal, the running back out of Kansas. I think there would have been some value there. If they had taken one of the quarterbacks, Will Howard or Riley Leonard, maybe there's some good value there. But like the other kicker went off the board 4 picks later.
Yeah.
So then if you don't take him there, then you're probably going to take like the 3rd or 4th best kicker in UDFAs. I think ultimately I learned something about myself in this draft, and that's that like I think I've grown to the point where like I'm not getting too fired up about late round picks.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, I'm just like once you get to the 7th round, you're getting guys, you're like jumping the UDFA train, basically. Like,
right.
And we'll get into it in 2 picks, but like 6th rounder on a kicker, yeah, they could have taken something else, but like they need a kicker. And if this is who they're pounding the table for, then like go get your guy. I don't know. I've seen this team take kickers in the 4th round. I've seen this team take kickers in the 5th round. So maybe that's what like dulls it for me, is that like, well, at least they didn't do that again, you know?
Right. And it's not Justin Rohrwasser, who's not going to make the team with his. Remember when he said he got his tattoos removed? We already did this. It was just he just wore sleeves to practice. It was crazy. Yeah. So I guess that's just my initial reaction comes from a place of being like, oh, they picked a kicker, but not a huge deal in the 6th round.
No.
Unless he stinks, then it was a waste of a pick. But it's up to him.
220 overall, they took Missouri offensive tackle Marcus Bryant. If you're wondering why Armand Membu was playing right tackle, it's because Marcus Bryant was playing left tackle. So not a bad project to take on here. Big, tall, athletic guy, ran a sub 540. he had some issues last year at Missouri from a blocking perspective, but like I I gave it a B plus. Once again, might have been a little bit high in the immediate aftermath of this draft, but like taking a really good athlete who played left tackle over Armand Membu with a 220th overall pick, I don't know. You can't do much better than that.
Yeah. No, I think you probably would have liked them to get their second tackle earlier than
Right.
that, but you make a good case, Doug. I don't know what to tell you.
There's some other guys like Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami. That would have been a decent pick. Carson Bruner, linebacker at UW, would have been good. Quarterback Curtis Rourke, running back Brashard Smith. But like, you need a tackle. You need another tackle, and they signed a big athletic guy
And they
or
did
drafted.
that. They drafted, and I hate to cross regimes, but it's kind of hard not to when you're talking about someone who's still on the offensive line. They got Mike Onwenu in the 6th round, and he turned into one of the better offensive
Right.
linemen. I don't know if it's overstating it to say one of the better offensive linemen in the league, but he's really good.
Yeah.
So you can get good players on the offensive line. Granted, I still don't know Mike Onwenu's position. I think he's going to play right guard. I think he's going to settle in there. But yeah, I didn't even think of that when you said it because like Membu's a right tackle. Membu's a right tackle. I didn't really think that this guy was on the other side. So that's why you're the writer.
Real brains of the operation here.
Yep.
And now clearly their best pick of the draft at 251 overall. They took long snapper Julian Ashby.
Let me butt in.
Yes.
Because you don't want to overreact to late round picks. I do, because like what the hell? Like what do you there is never a reason short of Bill Belichick in the midst of the dawn of a new dynasty era.
Yeah.
Dicking around and taking a Navy long snapper. What? Was that
round.
the 4th round?
Fifth round.
Short of that, which was like Belichick could do whatever he wanted, it didn't matter. They needed 3 players every year to be a contender. Like he could do whatever he wanted in the 5th round. There's just no reason to take a long. There's no reason to take a long snapper ever.
See, I think this is the part of me that I'm like once again like dulled by Bill Belichick because he drafted long snappers earlier than this, I believe, multiple times because they took
Ingram?
Cardona in the 5th round in 2015. When was Jake Ingram?
Yeah.
Was that his name?
Jake Ingram was for sure his name.
6th round in 2009. So like there's a precedent here where the Patriots were drafting long snappers in the 5th and 6th round. I probably gave this too good of a grade. I gave it a B minus, but
God.
I gave it a B minus because it's the 251st pick in the draft. Like, how can you possibly give an F to the 251st player in the draft? Like, once again, they were getting a head start on undrafted free agents at that point.
I fully
when
understand. I said kicker wasn't high
understand.
on my list of needs for the Patriots to turn this thing around. Long snapper was a lot lower than that. It's just 100%. Not necessary.
I understand the criticism.
Unless he's like the best dude in the world and Mike Vrabel just wants to hang out with him, in which case, whatever, have fun. But definitely seemed like a waste of a pick.
It did. And an element here is that like, I think Elliot Wolf said after the draft that like, they didn't think they would be able to get him as an undrafted free agent. I think that someone even might have reported at the time that like he had a deal in place with another team to sign as a UDFA. So at that point, it's like, the other element here is that they can save a decent amount of cap space if they keep him over Joe Cardona. So like, if they really wanted a new long snapper this year, you don't want the 2nd best long snapper. You don't want the 3rd best long snapper. You don't want the 4th best long snapper. You want the guy, right?
So you basically imprisoned him. He had a deal all lined up, and you're like, "No, you're ours now." Do you know what? While we're talking long snappers, sometimes I like to just complain about stories that find their way through like Boston sports media and become like established things. Remember when Joe Cardona became the highest paid long snapper in the league, and people were like, "Whoa, you're paying the long snapper!" Blah blah blah. It was by like $300,000. He was the highest paid long snapper ever. It was like the lowest paid to highest paid was a difference of like $1 million. So it was like, this really isn't a story.
I do think some people in the building might have been a little bit annoyed that they paid him that much though. And then he did proceed to have like a pretty bad season. Really? I think in 2023, he had some missed snaps.
Oh yeah.
But then he was good last year. He
Do you know what
turned
he
it
did
around for
last
himself.
year? Week 1, Cincinnati? Forced
He
fumble.
forced a fumble. That was
That was,
big.
that was cool.
So yeah, I don't know. I I I think one of the funnier quotes after the draft, Elliot Wolf was like, "Yeah, he was our top rated long snapper." I would fucking hope so if he was a seventh round pick.
If you picked
Like,
him.
no, I don't mean that's like a shot at Elliot Wolf,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I would hope you didn't take your second highest graded one.
That would have been an odd move. They're like,
Yeah,
oh well, we respected the fact that he had a deal in line, so we stepped aside and we took our second favorite
yeah.
long snapper.
Uh,
Again, not to make too
yeah,
big of it. It is a 7th round pick.
yeah.
I don't know what percentage of 7th round picks make teams, like 10%.
Right. And
So
like, and I think that if you're taking a long snapper in the seventh round, he's probably got a higher percent chance of making the team.
is there any chance they took a player from LSU and they tried to take another LSU player, but like the computer froze? It was just LS and it submitted as long, and they were like, yeah, we meant to do that.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Their final pick, Mr. Irrelevant. They acquired Mr. Irrelevant, cornerback Kobe Minor out of Memphis. He was rated 124th on Dane Brugler's draft guide. Once again, I give this a B minus just because like it's literally the last pick in the draft. Am I gonna give it an F? Like, come on, what are we doing here? I have very little opinions on Kobe Minor.
I have a lot, but I'll save them for the next podcast. I don't know. I probably have 40, 45 minutes.
Didn't have an interception in college. You don't love to see that out of a cornerback, but he allowed like 50% or lower completion percentage. Like, seemed like the Patriots just really liked him. They liked what he did in practice at Memphis. He transferred twice. That's why Elliot Wolf thought that he didn't hit. Spoiler alert, he's not on my 53-man roster projection.
Mhm.
But I look forward to watching him.
Yeah.
Could be another Malcolm Butler. Who knows?
So you tell me this because I was in and out. I wasn't as locked into the internet, so I caught it after. Did the Patriots really tweet out the A minor tweet? Was
I
that real?
don't know. I did not see that.
Oh,
Has
it
it?
was.
If they did, has it since been deleted?
That's what it is, but you never know. I could put, oh, they deleted this, and I wrote it myself. And
Right.
so it seems though there's a whole Reddit thread. It seems as though they really did the A minor tweet, which is like just like 2 months after it really hit its cultural touchstone. But never mind.
Yeah. It's yeah. I don't know.
I don't think they should have had to delete that.
I agree.
That's a good draft talk, Doug.
It is and they've signed some interesting undrafted free agents. We'll see who actually winds up because it's a ton of them, and they have to cut a bunch of guys too. What? Yes.
The calf roper, like, come on, that's one highlight that didn't pass me on Saturday night. So
they signed a quarterback. Probably best to take the guy to like sign an undrafted guy rather than draft one after what happened with Milton. But I don't know. It is what it is.
yeah, I'm trying to think. This is the 2 hour sleep thing.
Yeah.
Last year I was not last year. Sorry, 2 years ago. We're at training camp. They've got Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Last
year, Mac Jones?
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Who was the third string quarterback that we had to watch that just at no point had any chance of playing in the NFL?
Oh, God.
He was around.
Yes. Oh, Trace McSorley?
Trace McSorley. And it's like literally camp arm.
Yeah.
Is not a bad thing to have, though sometimes it can get rough.
Yeah, and like there's some vets out there that if they get really desperate, they could bring in a different guy. But I was wondering if you had any opinions on the Shadur Sanders discourse.
Okay.
Because I also do.
A couple things. I found his pocket presence in college to be so concerning and bad that I didn't understand the talk of him being a top 5 pick. In the sense that I watched him stand in the pocket for 15 minutes far too often, not going to work in the NFL. Maybe they can coach out him, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't surprised to see him slide. It obviously went overboard. We can talk about that. The prank call discourse has been like overreaction palooza. Like obviously doing that is shitty. Whoever did that, what's his name? Ulbricht's son.
Yeah.
Shitty thing to do. He deserves to be shamed, made fun of on the internet.
Yeah.
Everyone else can calm down. You don't win a prize if you show the most righteous indignation because Shadur Sanders, who's like also like, and I'm not even saying it with scorn or derision, like one of the more arrogant players in the country got pranked. Like he's going to live He's
Yeah.
probably over it because he's not he's not worried about it. I think people taking to Twitter to like campaign for him to win a Nobel Peace Prize for enduring that and for sending the Ulbricht kid to jail are bothering me.
So I agree with that most of all. I think that it's been made a little bit too big of a deal about. My take on all of this is that about a week ago, Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network quoted an anonymous source who said that Shadur Sanders did not interview well. I forgot what the exact quote was, but everyone like flipped out about it and was like, "You can't do that. Like, it's not fair to the player." Blah blah blah. Like, in my opinion, like, thank God he did do that because otherwise everyone would have been like, what the hell is Shadur Sanders sliding for? Like, that's why that kind of stuff is important because it gave context for why he wasn't taken the first round and why he wasn't taken until the fourth round. Like, if someone is explaining to you before the draft why a player might fall, it's worth putting out there. Like,
Right.
that whole discourse drove me a little bit crazy. And my other take on Shadur Sanders was that everyone who, after he got taken fourth overall, was like, well, this isn't a surprise. This is like where he was supposed to go all along. Like, he didn't fall. It's just that the NFL, like the media is catching up to the NFL. Hey, maybe say that a week ago.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Also,
wait until he went in the fourth round to say
he
that because like no one was saying that. Like, yes, people said that like he might not be a top 5 pick before the draft. No one was saying that he was going to be a fourth round pick. So like save that. Like, don't give me that. That's nonsense. Like, if you cannot report that before this happens, then you can't act like nothing happened. Like, this is a big nothing burger. They
right.
fell to the fourth round. I also,
Well, he
third
built
take,
himself a special room to be a first round draft pick in, and it
right.
didn't work out.
The collusion talk too, that the NFL was colluding. Why would the NFL collude against Shadur Sanders and Deion Sanders? That made no sense whatsoever. Like, the teams didn't want him in the first round. And then they realized that like maybe this isn't the best guy to be drafting as a backup in the second
Exactly.
or third round. So then the Browns took Dylan Gabriel and then said like, hey, this is probably the best value that we could possibly get in the draft. Just take Shadur Sanders in the fourth round, you're adding him to this massive quarterback room. And at that point, you just see what happens.
It is weird. And first of all, we said like teams get dumb with quarterbacks. They didn't get dumb this year. No one
Right.
was dumb from picks 2 to the 20s. So they held off on him. He's definitely not backup. He's not someone that's going to come in and be like, I'm here to learn. He's someone that comes in and wants to play. Like we had that happen here with a much lesser regarded prospect and lesser college player in Joe Milton. So just imagine that times a million. Like it's not a tenable prospect for teams that have a starting quarterback. So the pool was already limited. The 2 hours. Oh, and one more thing, Doug.
Yes.
The 2 hour sleep thing almost got me, but I remember what else I want to say. People showed their ass. I'm no college football expert, but they were like, how come when Eli did it, it was okay? Look at their stat comparison. And it's like, are you comparing Eli Manning's stats from 55 years ago at Ole Miss to what Shadur Sanders ran at Colorado? And it's like, look up, are you familiar with Washington State quarterback passing records? Like Luke Falk is the all-time, if college stats are what matters most, Luke Falk should be in the Hall of Fame for every level of football because
it's true.
Many things matter when it comes to compiling some of those stats. I mean, Mac Jones was the most accurate quarterback of college football history.
It's true.
Not doing him much good.
It's very true. All right. I had some other nonsense topics, but you're going on 2 hours of sleep. So did you want them or no?
Doug, there's one we can't skip, Doug.
Is that Riot Fest?
Nope.
What is it?
Did you catch CBS Sunday mornings?
Oh, God.
We should talk about this, like as
yeah.
weird as it is, Mr. Belichick, because like you can get into whatever, and the whole internet's being like, where did they really meet? Why are they hiding it? Blah, blah, blah. She's controlling. She's crazy. She's scary. I agree with a lot of that. The funniest part of that, and if you watch the longer clip,
I watched
Bill Belichick treats that fluff interview about his book like it's a Wednesday press conference the day after his star cornerback got arrested.
Yeah.
He literally dropped a question about his personal life. He dropped we're doing what's best for the team. But he said, just not worried about what other people think, just doing what I think is best for me. And it's like, he knows one speed and one. It was.
Yeah.
I respect. I forget. I'm sorry. I don't know the reporter's name.
Yeah.
I respect every question he asked there. I know if that was me, I would be punching myself in the face and the junk, like alternate. It's just so awkward. It was so awkward.
I think like some people thought it was there was some like, is Bill okay comments
Yeah.
after the interview, and like that was not my takeaway, because I think it came across stranger than it was, because he was trying to do the Bill press conference thing, but also be like smiling and trying to be like more personable than he can be in a press conference. So when they asked, I think the question was about like Instagram, and they were like, "How have you handled that?" or something like that, and he was
No, no, no,
like,
no. Okay, I can get the exact quote because that one stood out as
"Yeah,
just like it was. How do you respond to
right,
it? It
yeah."
was like, dude.
And he was like, "How do I respond?" But I think that like if that was in a press conference, he would have been like typical, like very
Oh,
gruff Bill.
it was
But
you.
since it
You
was
got a
on
lot.
that,
You got a
yeah,
lot of response on that. What's it been like? And he goes, "What's it been like?"
right. And like I think in a press conference, he'd be like, "Was it been like?" He would have been like very like obviously annoyed about it. But since you're on national TV, you can't respond that way. So I think that's why it came across so oddly. The where did you meet thing, I don't want to get too far into this, obviously, but like they have a narrative, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's fake, it's false, but
they've
yeah,
said that they met
on a
on a
plane,
plane.
and
And
he
like
signed her book.
I even looked this up last night. She at one point posted
The anniversary.
his, yeah, the anniversary of them meeting, of him like signing her book and being like, "Nice to meet." So like, why can't that just, why wouldn't they just continue on with that narrative? She posted about it this month.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess from a Pat's chat perspective, I saw someone say, and I don't know who. I'm really bad at sourcing my information. I see tweets and move on with my life. But I saw someone say, like, if you want a reason why NFL teams didn't get close to signing Bill Belichick this year, this is all. Watch this 8.5 minutes, and it's like, I don't know that like Jordan Hudson is running an NFL team the way she's running the North
Right.
Carolina Tar Heels, but I don't know. It is just kind of it's kind of sad. It's kind of messed up. Uh,
Just like her
it's
response of like, "We're not
uncomfortable.
talking about this," was like,
Well, if
I they kind of did them dirty by showing it, but like I think you have to at that point
if that was
show
her
that.
only interruption, then yes, they would have done a bad job. But
Right.
they said it was multiple times, and it's
Yeah.
just like that's why Hard Knocks isn't in North Carolina because she's the executive producer of Bill Belichick Productions. That's
Right.
why it's just weird, man. And I just can't really believe that like we covered it for so long
Yeah.
and it was the pinnacle of football. And I don't know, it can't last forever, but this was interrupt your vacation and stand there and think about it for a minute because it's so weird.
Yeah, that was pretty strange. I also have a take. I forgot what I was eating. Oh, I was drinking C4. The What to you is the best, what fake fruit flavor best imitates the real fruit?
Okay, not grape for
Nope.
sure. I mean, I could cheat and say like lime seltzer
Hmm.
tastes
Lime's
because, but
pretty
they
accurate.
use lime. You're talking like packaged sugar drink, right?
Or
Like grape
like
juice.
a gummy candy, or like a Sour Patch Kid or something like that.
Mm, uh, like I'm just thinking of like '90s garbage, like
Yeah.
Orange Tang.
Orange doesn't really taste
I
much like orange.
Not at all. I don't know. What are you going to hit me with? Because I don't know that I have a good answer.
The answer is peach. A fake peach flavor.
Oh, like a peach ring.
Yeah, it tastes like a peach.
Mm. Mm?
And maybe that's just like that peaches already kind of taste like candy. But I was drinking like a peach C4. It's like, this tastes like a peach. Much more than like a grape C4. Just tastes like purple
Yeah.
flavoring.
Grapes got to
Yeah.
go. Want to know something lame that I did?
What?
Is I'm a huge seltzer drinker, and I had a ton of polar seltzers, and I got Georgia peach for maybe like the second time. You don't see
Mm,
it too often,
yeah.
and I didn't do it on purpose, but it was Masters Sunday, and I was thirsty,
Wow.
and I saw it, and I was like, and I drank
Gotta do it.
My Georgia Peach seltzer watching Rory win the Masters, and I was like, I'll by myself. It wasn't the coolest, but I like a peach. I like a peach flavor.
Peach is good. Do you have any thoughts on Riot Fest? Blink 182 is playing. The Beach Boys are playing. Green Day is playing. The Wonder Years are playing. This is something that should be right up our alley, and nothing would make me go to that fest just
Oh
because
no,
3 days, hundreds of thousands of people. Very much NFM, not for me, but wild lineup.
if that were in Massachusetts, I probably wouldn't go. I just don't like festivals.
Yeah,
It's just too much. There's too many people. If I see Blink, I know it's gonna be in a huge place. But a lot of those, like if I see the Wonder Years, I want to have my hand on the stage. Like I don't
right.
need to go see it in a parking lot with 8,000 or a park with 9,000 people in my way.
I think that I'm not a big fest guy because uh, Andrew Callahan once said that he was like, it seems like you like every band or every type of music or whatever. I was like, that is not true. I like 20 total bands. They go across many different genres, but like I have zero interest in seeing a band or an artist that I don't like or that I don't know. And there are like I dislike 99% of
Mm.
music, but I like punk, I like hardcore, I like country, I like pop punk, I like pop, I like 80s stuff. I like an eclectic mix of music, but only like very specific artists or songs within that music. So if I'm looking at a fest that has like 70 bands, and if I only really want to see like 10 to 12 of them, I'm like, nope, not for me. I don't want to stand around and watch a band I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta catch them on tour. Like Alkaline Trio's
Yeah.
high on that bill, and it's like we did see them at the House of Blues, and it
Right.
was a much better place to see them. Um,
Even Weezer, who I like, don't really have a desire to see them in live.
I
I'm just
saw
like, I
them.
like them enough,
I
but
saw
not that
them.
much.
I was waiting for Metallica at Boston Calling, and Weezer was playing on the other stage, and I was like, "Yeah, there they are." I don't know. It's just, but uh, like when we were Young Fest is basically you probably would like a lot more of that bill. I still don't have a
Right.
desire to go to that, which
Yeah.
brings me back around to football. You're not a psychoanalyst. I don't believe you went to that type of school. I don't believe you have a doctorate in brain doctorage. I'm getting tired.
No, I went to Emerson College and I have a degree in broadcast journalism.
What do you think it is that leads 250,000 people to go to the draft? Because, like, I believe still the people in the tent in the stage area are like paid actors.
Right.
Because there's no way when they draft when the Titans draft a guard in the 5th round, some lady's losing her mind. Like, I don't
Right.
believe that people are like that. But everyone outside of that is a real person that went. And, like,
Yeah.
I get it. There's something going on. It's football adjacent. You can wear your jersey, eat some sausage, drink some beer,
Right.
whatever. It's so many people.
It's a
It's
lot of people who decide to go to that, especially in like when it's
200,000 Thursday night.
cold.
Yeah. It's not like and when it's in Nashville, ton of people are in Nashville. So if
Yeah.
something's going on, they're going to migrate there. There's not a ton of people in Green Bay
Right.
on a
No, it's
Thursday
true.
night.
Yeah. It's the smallest market. So like people are traveling far to do that.
It's
I agree.
just like I'm not yucking
It blows my
yums,
mind. Yeah.
but it just seems very boring to me to
Yes.
go and be the 7,000th person back
Right.
on the right side of the stage as Roger Goodell comes out and introduces the 16th pick of the draft.
I hate to throw take after take after take to keep you on this podcast.
I don't
I have,
care.
I have one more draft take.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first round, sometimes Twitter is 4 to 5 picks ahead of the TV show. And as someone who's covering the draft, you have to like filter through Twitter to figure out who's tipping the picks. And then like, because like you kind of have to do that if you're covering the draft.
Right.
You can't be behind. You have to see who's available. You have to see like the Patriots pick as early as possible so that you can write it up. We don't need Roger Goodell announcing the picks anymore. If on ESPN, Adam Schefter announces or reports the picks, if on NFL Network, Ian Rappaport reports the picks, it's a TV show before anything else. Or they've made it this way. And your TV show is suffering because of the presentation and because of the fact that people know the picks before the TV show. Something has to change about it because for me covering the draft, there was almost zero value in having the actual draft on. because it was so far behind.
You've done the impossible, Doug. You've put me in a position to defend more Roger Goodell, and that's what I'm going to do because I think it's
good
more
for
about
players. I know
it's more about the culmination of their life's work. They've made it. Their first round draft picks. No one can ever take that away from them. I hate the fact that it's Roger out there hamming it up with them because he's such a loser, riding his bicycle around like a donkey. I
On
was
the
hoping
third day when he was trying to get fans to boo him more, I was also like, this bit's played out. It's so far played out.
this is a man, and we could do another hour on Goodell. This is a man who, when they made the movie Draft Day, which is far and away one of the worst movies ever made, I've watched it at least twice. Love it. Terrible movie. He comes to the stage to announce the first pick of that draft and gets cheered. And he had say over that and was like, I want them to cheer me in this movie. And it's like, dude, that dude is messed up. I despise most everything about him. But I like the fact, and I'll tell you, I've been on the other side now. I've seen the light. I watched the draft without my phone.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And I didn't have access to NFL Network. So I was strictly ESPN. And it was like there was no flipping, there was no guessing. We were just kind of locked into it. And as long as you avoid those tweets, which isn't that hard these days, because who's on Twitter, Doug? There's a question for you. I disagree. And maybe as Twitter fades more and more into obscurity, it becomes less of an issue.
Yeah, I guess maybe the real solution is just to eliminate like immediate social media, because Twitter is bottoming out. It feels like
Instagram won't do that.
Blue Sky is not a solid replacement. Threads is not a solid replacement. Twitter obviously is a cesspool for many, many, many reasons, but like it is what it is. Like I could just not check my mentions, but like if you put an opinion on there, chances are you're getting called like the R word. And it's just like, at what point does this not make it worth it to even like share your opinion on this site? You know?
Do you know what I've noticed? And we're not political chat, but this is a fascinating thing because you see how warped the platform is. You'll see a video of like someone crossing the street and like hit their head on a sign and fall over. And like one will be like typical Biden voter, and the next will be like typical Trump voter. And it's like, well, which one is it? Like which typical voter is it? And it's just like such a waste of time. And
yeah, there's a lot of things that need to change about many things. And before we get down to dark of a path, we're going to get out of here. We've done a lot of talking already. We're going to talk some more at 7:30 tonight. It's going to be on this YouTube channel. It's going to be on CLNS. It's going to be on Twitter, even though we said a bunch of bad things about it. It's going to be on Andrew. It's going to be all over the place. You can't miss it. Tune in. We're talking about the draft with Mina Kimes and Jason McCourty and Danny Kelly and Danny Heifetz and a lot of smart people. I won't list them all. Steve and Sam. Tune in, rate, review, subscribe, do all those fun things. Michael has one more thing to say.
I'm going to work on it over the next several hours to get Wilson and Woodson sorted out. Wish me luck.
Okay. Good luck to that. And hopefully you figure that out by the time that you're on. Goodbye. We'll talk to you all later. See ya. Peace. Oh, I have to send an outro video. All right.